My sister-in-law excluded me from family photos on a trip I paid for, but now she's broke because I left her luxury room bill unpaid. You won't believe this, but I'm writing this whole story while on vacation in Miami. Yeah, it's a shame.so. I'm 47. My wife, Ratch, is 42. Her parents are 76 and 70, and her sister, Ella, is 38. We came on vacation 2 days ago. It was supposed to be a fun trip, but Ella is making it miserable. She's ruining my vacation, and I don't know how to deal with it. Ratch and I have been married for 10 years. We're financially comfortable, travel often, and plan at least 3 big vacations a year plus weekend getaways to unwind. We both have demanding, well-paying jobs. We don't have kids and enjoy living this way. For the past 2 years, we've made sure to take Ratch's parents on at least 1 trip annually. They're elderly, and her dad is dealing with serious health issues, so her mom can't travel alone with him. This summer, her dad kindly asked to visit Miami. They honeymooned here, and for some reason, he fears this might be his last trip, God forbid. So we agreed. He even offered to cover some expenses because, as you know, a week in Miami is pricey. We declined, and I assured him I could handle it. There were no issues between Ratch and me. I paid for the trip, even though her parents joined us, that I don't mind covering their costs since I'm doing well financially, and they've been great to me. But this year, Ella, Ratch's sister, joined us too. She's not financially stable and has 3 school-aged kids. Every year, when we plan a trip and return, she feels down because she hasn't been able to afford a vacation since her honeymoon. This year, she directly asked if she could come along. I agreed, knowing I'd have to pay since she obviously can't afford a Miami vacation that I didn't mind too much. Sometimes you have to support family. I booked flights and hotels for everyone. But from the moment we landed, Ella started acting strange. By strange, I mean she went out of her way to exclude me from everything. At first, I didn't think much of it. We arrived at a beach resort, and after settling in, Ella wanted a family photo. Innocent, right? Wrong. Just as we were about to pose, she turned to me and said, "Oh, can you take the picture? We want just the 4 of us, Mom, Dad, Ratch, and me." I was stunned but didn't make a scene. Maybe they just wanted a photo of the original family. I thought it would end there, but it didn't. Ella made this a recurring theme throughout the trip. Every time we stopped at a scenic spot or did something fun, she'd say, "Oh, just the 4 of us," or "This is just for the family." Guess who was always holding the camera? Me. Several times, Ratch stood up for me, saying he's family too. My in-laws also asked me to join, but Ella never missed a chance to sideline me. The photos she posted on social media barely included me. It looked like the 4 of them were on vacation. It was frustrating. I wasn't in half the trip's photos, and instead of making memories, I was playing photographer or bag carrier. Later that afternoon, we decided to spend time at the hotel's pool, an infinity pool with an ocean view. I thought it'd be a relaxing break after all the walking. As I was about to join everyone in the water, Ella turned to me and said, "Can you stay out for a bit? We want a girl's photo, just Ratch, Mom, and me." I thought, fine, no big deal. But after they took that photo, Ella made sure I was conveniently busy every time the camera came out. First, it was just the women, then just the sisters, and of course, another with the original family. If she disliked my company so much, why did she even come with us? Yesterday, we went sightseeing on a combo tour. It should have been a chill family day, but Ella found a way to exclude me again. Most activities in these places are set up for 4 people, 2 by 2. Since there were 5 of us, Ella suggested Ratch's parents sit together in one row, and she'd sit with Ratch in the next. That made it easier for family photos and memories. That left me alone, She turned to me and said, "Oh, you can take the next seat. It's more balanced that way." They even bought a souvenir photo from the tour, with me sitting alone like a stranger. I get that someone has to be left out sometimes, but why is it always me? Ella could have switched places once, right? Another night, we went to a fancy seafood restaurant, one of those places where you need reservations days in advance. I'd taken care of everything, ensuring we had a great table with a perfect sunset view. When we arrived, they led us to a round table for 6. Anyone who's been in this situation knows the best seats face the view. Naturally, I thought Ratch and I would sit together with her parents across from us, leaving Ella on one side. But as we were about to sit, Ella quickly slid into the seat next to Ratch, and her parents took the 2 seats facing the view, leaving me on the viewless side, squeezed between Ratch's parents and the waiter's station. Ratch tried to protest, saying she wanted to sit with me, but Ella snapped back, telling her to stop being so clingy and that this was a family trip. That I bit my tongue, thinking, fine, it's just one meal. But halfway through dinner, when I tried joining the conversation about family stories, Ella kept steering it to things I wasn't part of: childhood memories, high school trips, inside jokes that naturally excluded me. Ratch and even her parents tried to include me by giving context, but Ella kept interrupting, making everything feel forced. By dessert, I was practically a ghost at the table, ignored while everyone laughed and reminisced. Today, we booked a spa day. I reserved a private suite for Ratch and me, another for my in-laws, and a single room for Ella. However, my father-in-law wasn't feeling well and wanted to rest on the beach. I thought the 4 of us could still go and have fun, but Ella pulled another stunt. She said, "You should probably stay here and keep Dad company. It'd be nice if just the women did the spa treatments together for a girls' day." I was furious but tried not to explode. I paid for all of this, and now I was being told it was a women-only activity. After that, I wasn't in the mood to join anyway, so I stayed and relaxed with my father-in-law. It actually turned out nice. We had great conversations, he shared some advice, and it was fun and comforting. I wanted to vent about Ella, but held back to avoid ruining the vibe. With 3 full days left, I can't stand Ella anymore. But I don't want my anger to ruin the trip for my in-laws. How do I handle this? Edit 1. Yes, I expressed my concerns to Ratch the other night. She understands I felt hurt, but thinks Ella might not be doing it on purpose. Growing up, they rarely had family vacations since my father-in-law was often deployed in the military. So maybe Ella's trying to make the most of family time. Sometimes I feel like I might be overreacting or acting entitled. Do you think it's intrusive of me to feel entitled to be included in everything just because I paid for the trip? Am I overthinking this? Update 1. Thanks for siding with me. I know it doesn't always seem right, but what she did wasn't okay. Spoiler, I got my revenge, but keep reading to find out how to be why the end of the trip, I'd had enough. I was being treated like an outsider on a trip I paid for, and I was fuming every time Ella sidelined me. The final straw came the day before we were set to leave. I pulled Ratch aside and asked why she wasn't defending me. I told her I felt like a nobody, and Ella could see how hurt I was. She sighed and said, "I know, I see it, but confronting Ella will only make things worse. We don't want to ruin the trip for my parents, especially with Dad's condition. Can we let it slide for now?" I didn't want to create drama, especially with her dad's health, so I let it go at the time, but deep down, I was already planning my revenge. I wasn't going to let Ella get away with treating me like this on a trip I funded. On departure day, I told Ratch to head to the airport with her parents, and I'd go with Ella. Ratch looked at me and said, "I know what you're up to." I replied, "Of course you do, and now stay neutral, like you have this whole trip." She finally nodded. Then I went to the hotel front desk to settle the bills. The hotel worked so that while room rentals were paid up front, all extra charges like meals, room service, and activities were settled at checkout. I asked the manager to separate the bills for each suite, making up some excuse about taxes. He agreed. It was no big deal for them. I paid for my suite and my in-laws, but asked the manager to bill Ella for hers. By then, Rach and my in-laws had already left for the airport. They needed to get there early to arrange wheelchairs and such. The manager called Ella to come down to settle her bill. She came right away, and when he handed her the bill, you should have seen her face. She looked at me, confused. I stood there stone-faced. She got flustered and asked, "Aren't you covering mine?" I smiled and said, "I already paid for my family. You can cover yours." She hadn't realized how much she'd racked up during the trip. Room service, spa treatments, the minibar, and all the extras added up to a hefty bill. She swiped her credit card, only for it to be declined. It barely covered half the amount. She was furious, scrambling to figure out how to pay. She kept shooting me pleading looks, but I felt no pity for her. She got dirty looks from the hotel staff and other guests, which was quite satisfying that I just sat on the couch and enjoyed the show. I was prepared to pay her bill if she came over and apologized for her behavior, but she was too proud for that. Instead, she expected me to offer to pay voluntarily. She ended up calling her husband, who wasn't thrilled about bailing her out. The bill was almost a month's salary for him, if not more. After an awkward argument, she finally got him to send the money to cover it, but she was livid that I wanted to leave her at the hotel to deal with it. But since the reservation was under my name, I couldn't. I was ready to face the consequences and pay if she couldn't cover it, but I'd already gotten my revenge by embarrassing her. She eventually paid, and the hotel got us a taxi to the airport. She didn't speak to me after that. To add to her misery, she hadn't checked in for her flight. So when we got to the airport, we were already rushed and late. On top of that, she had to deal with getting her boarding pass. As if that wasn't enough, I got Rach, my in-laws, and myself upgraded to business class, leaving Ella in economy. I left her in line and went through priority boarding. When she finally boarded, we were already seated. She walked past us but didn't say a word. She was fuming. The moment we landed, Ella went straight to her parents and told them everything, trying to paint me as the villain who abandoned her at the hotel. She made such a scene that it stressed her dad out. She started arguing right there in the airport, crying about how I humiliated her in front of the hotel staff and guests and didn't upgrade her or check her, and that I calmly explained my side, that Ella spent the entire trip excluding me and treating me like an outsider despite me paying for everything. So why should I cover her expenses if she didn't consider me family? Rach's mom, trying to keep the peace, just shook her head and said, "Ella, enough. We don't want to get involved. We saw how you kept pushing him out. We asked him to join, but you had your own plans to exclude him. Now deal with it." But Ella wasn't done. She accused me of using money to control everyone and called me a horrible man. She looked at Rach and said, "You sided with your husband to humiliate your sister, your own blood. You'll see what this man does to you. He'll cheat on you, and you won't be able to do anything because you're blinded by his money." This led to an ugly fight between Rach and Ella. Rach's dad, who'd been mostly silent during the trip, simply said, "Ella, your brother-in-law has done enough for you. If you can't appreciate it, keep quiet." There was dead silence, and he asked me to take him home as soon as possible. I helped him into the car, and we left, leaving Ella at the airport. She was too proud to join us in the car, though she hadn't arranged transport. Maybe she took a taxi back, which would have cost a lot. Her house is about 100 to 120 kilometers from the airport. I dropped my in-laws off at their place, and they both thanked me for everything. Their gratitude was all that mattered to me. My mother-in-law gave me an extra long hug, and that made my day. Afterward, Rach and I went home that we were both quiet about the issue, ignoring the elephant in the room. The next day, we went back to work, and life seemed to return to normal. But the other day, Rach broke the silence and said Ella was having issues with her husband over the payment. He demanded she pay him back every cent since he couldn't afford her overspending. Now she's broke from paying that and her credit card bills. Rach has supported me, but admitted I might have gone a bit far. Still, she acknowledged Ella needed to learn a lesson. She brought it on herself. So Reddit. Was I the jerk for making her pay her own bills? Or did she deserve it after everything she put me through? Update 2. I got mixed reactions to my last post. Some said I went too far and basically wanted me to be a pushover. Well, I'm not that. I didn't expect Ella to treat me like her servant, but I did expect some respect. The least I expected was to be included, right? As I mentioned, I was willing to pay if Ella came to me and sorted things out. But she wasn't willing to admit her mistakes. I don't owe anyone an explanation for my actions. I did what felt right. Ella has never been close to me. Sure, we see each other at family gatherings, and she visits Rach often, but beyond greetings, we barely talk. Still, I didn't mind paying for her trip. That deserves some respect, no? As I mentioned, her husband wasn't thrilled about bailing her out. With all due modesty, I'd say the bill was close to his monthly income. Who'd be happy spending a month's salary on their wife's extravagant hotel bill? As expected, Ella painted me as the villain to her husband. Things got so bad that he refused to attend Thanksgiving dinner at my in-laws because I'd be there. Every year, my mother-in-law hosts this dinner, and this year she wanted it to be special, especially given my father-in-law's declining health. Her husband declined the invite, and when my mother-in-law confronted him, he said he didn't want to share a table with someone as awful as me, who humiliates someone less fortunate. My mother-in-law then told him the truth about Ella's behavior on the trip. She suggested he look at the vacation photos to see how blatantly she excluded me. There was barely a group photo with me in it. I have a decent relationship with her husband, not too close, not too distant. We meet every year at Thanksgiving and sometimes other holidays. I always thought he was a good guy and never looked down on him or anyone else. After hearing about this through Rach, I hesitated to attend the dinner but went for my father-in-law's sake. Ella and her husband didn't show up. When my father-in-law was around, my mother-in-law said they couldn't come because they were visiting his parents. I didn't realize until later that was just a lie to keep my father-in-law from stressing. After he went to bed, my mother-in-law told me the truth. Ella and her husband have been fighting nonstop, and Ella's become unreasonable. She constantly belittles him for his low income and now expects him to take a second job on top of his full-time work. He agreed, but only if he wasn't responsible for household chores or childcare. Ella didn't like that. I was shocked to learn she only works 20 hours a week, but expects him to work over 60 hours between two jobs and still do his share of housework. My mother-in-law has been trying to counsel Ella and make her see the reality of her situation, but Ella seems to have tasted the luxury lifestyle and now wants to keep it. Finally, my mother-in-law had to tell Ella that if she ends up divorced, she shouldn't expect her parents to step in and help. When Rach and I got back from the dinner, we talked about how it was probably a mistake to bring Ella on the trip in the first place. I keep thinking of a quote I read at one of the resorts. Once you experience the luxury of a private island, you'd never step foot on a public one. The same goes for flying business class. I feel bad for her husband. The poor guy is suffering. I hope Ella comes to her senses before it's too late. That I wanted to share this update, thinking it might help someone else dealing with similar family dynamics. It's frustrating when someone treats you like an outsider, especially when you're trying to be generous despite their behavior. I'm glad I went to Thanksgiving for my father-in-law, and it shows how much I care about family despite the tension. It's unfortunate that Ella's creating this divide, but it seems the truth about her behavior is finally coming to light. I hope she takes time to reflect and realize the impact of her attitude before it further damages her relationships. Update 3. Well, everything is finally blown up between Ella and her husband, and divorce seems inevitable. Their situation has become unsustainable, mainly due to the weight of Ella's debts and the constant stress this has added to their lives. To start, I feel bad for him. He's not to blame for his wife's decisions or her attitude during the trip, yet he's paying part of the price in every sense. Since the conflict erupted, Ella has done nothing but blame me for all her problems. It's easier for her to pin her debts and broken marriage on my lack of support than to admit things are this way because she couldn't apologize, acknowledge her behavior, or face the consequences of her actions. Despite having multiple chances to make amends and apologize, she clings to her version of events, and I'm not taking the blame for her marriage falling apart. I spoke with her parents, who don't back her up on this. In fact, they're frustrated with Ella and say she's earned this outcome. In their words, Ella bought all the tickets to ruin her marriage. They know the situation is complex, but they can't even side with her in this story. They're worried about the impact this will have on the kids and family dynamics, but they believe Ella must face the consequences of her choices. I also talked to her husband, who, to my relief, doesn't blame me for the situation. He told me that while the debt issue was the trigger, they already had prior marital problems, mainly due to Ella's lack of commitment to work and contribute to the household. It reached a breaking point, which is why they're now living apart. Ella moved out. But don't think her husband kicked her out. Ella left by choice. He gave her two options. Either she stayed home with the kids and took care of everything while he left, or he stayed to manage the house and kids, and Ella had to leave. To everyone's surprise, Ella chose the second option. She preferred to leave rather than make the effort to stay with her kids and handle the household. This gave me a whole new perspective on her husband. He's someone who isn't afraid of hard work. During one of our talks, I started considering offering him a job opportunity at my company. People with his work ethic and commitment are always valuable to the team, and I think I could find him a position with a good salary and better benefits. In a way, I feel I owe it to him since, while he's not at fault for what his wife did, he's also a victim of the situation and is struggling to move forward. So, in summary, that's what's been happening lately. It's been an exhausting process for everyone, but I feel things are starting to fall into place, though at a high cost for some. Maybe I'll update again in a few months if things evolve, if Ella and her husband finalize their divorce, or if something significant happens in my life. Edit. Some people asked where Ella is living now. She's staying at a friend's house. Her parents made it clear they didn't want her at their place. Update 4. It's been several months since my last update, and a lot has happened in my life and my extended families. Now that things have calmed down a bit, I want to share the aftermath and how things have evolved. First, I have to start with sad news. My father-in-law passed away. He was right when he said the Miami trip would be his last big outing. It's devastating because I truly love that man, and losing him has been a hard blow for all of us. Some told me I should have confronted Ella's behavior sooner and put a stop to her antics from the start. But I'm grateful I didn't. Putting up with Ella during that trip meant my father-in-law got to enjoy a vacation with his family. I still remember our moment on the beach and some of the things we talked about. He was always there for me and treated me like a son. He gave me advice, helped me when I was starting my life with Ratch, and taught me more than I can put into words. I know my wife will miss him deeply, as will my mother-in-law, but I feel I've also lost someone who was a pillar in my life, like when he helped us early in our careers. He was a wise, generous man who asked for nothing in return for his help and love. I'm glad I could contribute, in part, to his happiness in his final days. Moving on to Ella and her divorce, the papers are signed, so she's officially divorced. I'm sure you're wondering what happened with her debts and my ex-brother-in-law. During the divorce process, he gave her 2 reasonable options for their situation. She could choose shared custody of the kids, but she'd be fully responsible for her personal debts. The credit card debt was still hers, and she'd have to repay him the money he used to cover her Miami bill, deducted from the spousal support he'd owe her. The other option was that he'd take primary custody of the kids, meaning they'd live with him during the week and only spend weekends with Ella, and he'd cover the debt. Unsurprisingly, Ella chose the second option. This benefits him since he won't have to pay child support, as the kids are with him most of the time. Some might think Ella missed a financial opportunity by not taking primary custody, and maybe it was a mistake for her from that perspective. But deep down, I think Ella just isn't genuinely interested in her kids. Proof of this is that she's already started dating other men, all with comfortable financial positions, according to rumors we've heard. It seems her intention was to simply shed her family responsibilities and find someone who could offer her the luxurious lifestyle she craved, on a positive note. To end this update, since it started on a low note, my ex-brother-in-law is now officially my coworker. As I mentioned, I got him a job at my company, and I'm thrilled for him. The pay is better, and it comes with great benefits, like on-site daycare for his youngest child. However, we were strategic about timing. We ensured he started his new job at the right moment to avoid paying higher spousal support due to his new salary. Despite how tough this has been for him, it seems he's finally seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Life, somehow, moves forward that we've all been through tough times, but I feel fortunate to say things are generally improving. In fact, we're starting to plan our next trip. This time, it'll be different since my father-in-law won't be with us for obvious reasons, and that leaves a void that'll be hard to fill. Still, we plan to bring my mother-in-law, who needs a change of scenery and some cheering up. I'm sure she'll enjoy a family getaway to help her move forward at least a bit. And don't worry, we also have a trip planned just for Ratch and me. We just wanted to do something nice for my mother and law.as. You can imagine, there's someone who clearly won't be part of this trip. I think it's obvious who I mean. Ella is the last person we'd want to invite, and I think we all know her presence is no longer welcome.